Hi, it's Maya here. Today I'm here with my TBRs for two different readathons, AYearAthon and TBR Takedown 5.0. And both of these readathons start today on Monday the 6th and run until Sunday the 12th. So I'm pretty much filming this TBR at the last minute, but here we go. So let's talk about AYearAthon first. So this is a readathon that takes place during the first full week of every month, and there's a different theme for each month. And this month's theme is retellings. So this can be retellings of fairy tales, mythology, classics, pretty much anything that you can think of. And I'm going to be reading two things for this readathon, and the first of those is Broom with a View by Gayla Twist and Ted Nafee. And this is a retelling of the classic A Room with a View by Ian Forster. I saw the movie so many times as a kid and I really love it, and I've also read the book. So I'm looking forward to this one. This is a fantasy retelling, so the main character is a witch and her love interest is a vampire. The other retelling that I will read is The Convergence of Fairy Tales by Octavia Cade. So as you can tell, this is a retelling of fairy tales. I think it tackles 5 different fairy tales, and I think it's horror actually. So it'll be really interesting to see how the horror versions of these fairy tales play out. This is a novella and it's only about 60 pages long, so it'll be good to read during a readathon. So that was what I will be reading for AYearAthon. Now let's take a look at the books for TBR Takedown 5.0. So this readathon has 5 challenges, and I'll be using both of the books from AYearAthon for these challenges as well, because otherwise I would have no chance of reading this much during a week. So the first challenge is to read a book that's been on your TBR for over a year, and I'm going to be using Broom with a View for this one as well. I think I've owned it for about 3 years, and it's just been sitting on my Kindle. And for the second challenge, a book from your most recent book haul, I will be using The Convergence of Fairy Tales, since I just bought it last week. I haven't hauled it in a video or anything, but it is the last book that I bought. So now we'll get to the books that are actually different. And the third challenge is to read the first book in a series. And I have Miss Phryne Fisher Investigates by Kerry Greenwood, which is a Phryne Fisher mystery, so I think that's what the series is called. I picked this one up from the library because I really like the TV series Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries, which is based on these books. So this first book was first published under the title Cocaine Blues, but there are some editions with this different name, I don't know why. And I already started this book last night after midnight when I couldn't get to sleep, and I really do need to finish it this month because it is a library book that cannot be renewed. So I need to read it and give it back instead of just keeping renewing it like I do with some books. It's a bad habit. The fourth challenge is to catch up on a series, and for this I chose The Wicked and the Divine Volume 4, Rising Action by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey. And this is the comic book series about gods who reincarnated into the bodies of young people and become sort of pop stars. And I have read the first 3 volumes and owned this 4th volume for a while, so I think it's high time to finally read it. There's also a 5th challenge, but I'm going to be skipping that one. It is to read a book out of your comfort zone. And I do own 2 books that I could use for this. One of them is a historical romance, and one of them is a non-fiction book. But I don't really feel like reading them this week, and also I don't think I would have the time. Neither of the books is that short that it would be good for adding to this readathon pile, so I will just leave that one. So those are all the books that I will be reading for the readathons, but then I have also plans to read a couple of other books during February, so I sort of thought that I would make a brief February TBR as well. So these 2 books I know that I will read. And the first one is a book that was chosen on a Twitter poll because I couldn't decide which of my owned physical books I wanted to read this month. So I made a Twitter poll with 4 options, and with over 50% of the votes, I will be reading The Martian by Andy Weir. You all know what this is about. An astronaut gets stranded on Mars and has to survive there. And then I have a library book for the month, and that is The Power by Naomi Alderman. It has a blurb from Margaret Atwood on the cover. And this is sort of a flipping of our society's power structures so that young girls get the power over life and death. And it says on the flap, suddenly, tomorrow or the day after, girls find that with a flick of their fingers, they can inflict agonizing pain and even death. With this single twist, The four lives at the heart of Naomi Alderman's extraordinary, visceral novel are utterly transformed, and we look at the world in an entirely new light. What if the power were in women's hands? I've heard that this is definitely not going to be one of those if women were in power everything would be better books. I think this is more of a study about power and how power corrupts and how we are all just human. But I'm also still really interested in seeing that flipping of the power moving into the hands of young girls. I think this is a book that will make you think. So that was my TBR for the readathons and for February in general. Are you taking part in either of these readathons, the TBR Takedown or AYearAthon? Let me know in the comments. I hope you're having a very good day and I will see you later.